Hey guys, it's SR Mowry here, and today we are not doing a YouTube video for Mistwood Publishing. We are doing something a little bit more private and basically just a little bit more special. You know, this isn't for the masses. This is for the people that are the hardcore fans that, have signed up for Patreon, even on, that $5 a month, which is what gains access to this, is, every little bit counts. And I mean, that is just a huge deal. I mean, really. So I want to make these kind of special and a little bit more intimate, but that word is creepy, so intimate but not in a creepy way. So this first video I want to kind of go over maybe a little bit of mapping and the evolution of the maps of Fostra. Before I do that, I do have Saga 2 right here. I mean, this is all of it right here. Took up this first notebook and then some. Alright. So you got this notebook, you can see in here, it's all full. I don't even start on a new page whenever a chapter ends. Excuse me. Second part of it, I use every ounce of space I can get on these suckers. And then I went over into this just a little bit. Went up to be about 535 pages. And I write all of the character journals that you see at the beginning of each part in each book, and at the end of each book I write in here. Smells good. I don't know. I always do that because I want to make it feel real, and I kind of see that as Narbed's war journal. So if my character's writing a journal, I want to write a journal. But anyway, I want to show you guys a few cool things here, some inside information, right? A little bit more private of a conversation. And that's what these things will kind of be like, is just this little bit more private stuff. So when I was in high school, I was reading R.A. Salvatore, and let me actually get that book because it is a big book. It's an important book to me. These two books specifically have meant a lot to me in my life. And that is, when I was in elementary school, and my mom and I were at a Walmart, we came across... she was buying something. I was looking at the books, and I came across, The Legend of Drizzt, the Hunter's Blade trilogy, and it was The Thousand Orcs. And it kind of stayed in my mind, and then later on in life, in summer in between my junior and senior year of high school, I was like, I'm going to find that book. We're in a bookstore. Mira, please stop that. I'm going to find it. And I did, but I found out it was the 25th book in the series or something. So I asked the person, I didn't ask, I just found the first book in the series. It was The Legend of Drizzt, Book 1, Homeland. And this book and this book, Book 2, are probably my absolute favorite fantasy novels. I know that's probably sacrilegious because I absolutely love The Lord of the Rings. But as far as fantasy novels that have impacted me and meant the most to me, these two books and all the Legend of Drizzt books, I've read all of them. They've really gotten me through some pretty tough times in my life, and they're just really important to me. And those books are ultimately what got me into reading fantasy, and thus, through reading those books, I was like, man, I kind of want to make my own books. And so, The Lord of the Rings is what got me into fantasy, but it's R.A. Salvatore and Drizzt, or however you pronounce his name, that really got me into wanting to write. So then whenever I was in college, I kind of came up with the plot line in high school that will be Saga 6. Alright, so the next book with Elion in it will be that original plot that I made. And I was kind of working with that, and I had at that point I had Saga 6 and 2 other books, which would be like the trilogy that I was going to write. Like those were going to be my books. And then I came up with Narbad whenever I started playing Skyrim. And so I made a prequel, but that was when I was in college. And about that time, whenever my world expanded, because I mean before I got Narbad, I mean it was very like vague, and like I was listening to some heavy metal like All That Remains and Chevelle and August Burns Red and Under Oath that were really kind of, those songs really shaped the stories I wanted to tell in certain ways because their songs were inspiring. But it was whenever I got to college and I was playing Skyrim and I was falling in love with, I had a crush on who's my wife now. I don't know, I was kind of lonely, I guess, and so I just had a lot of time, and I was reading The Lord of the Rings, which also did get me to kind of expand upon things and make it just a lot better. I was also reading The Children of Herne, which is basically what inspired The Sylvan Mist. But anyway, in my little dorm room, it's held together with duct tape. This was the first map of Fostra. And it was originally called Bryvern. I don't know how well you can see that. But basically what I took was, I took Iceland, which is this part here, and I connected it with what is Ireland, but without Northern Ireland. And then I took Scotland and kind of flipped it on its side. So you can kind of see here, it's like going all over the place. But I put a little dragon in it and all that jazz. And keep in mind, that's Hanor right there. And this is all there was. Like, this was everything, Now, you can see that there are some similarities here, like, you still have the Immortal Forest, you still have Mount Gesu, you still have the giant lake and the frosty hills, and what is now called Knockfjord, it was Nordanvia. And you still kind of see a lot of the same influences. Telor's still there. Oh yeah, Hanor wasn't even called Hanor, it was called Apex Island, which, I mean, there's just a lot of similarities. I knew I wanted some kind of sea monster there, but... And then, look at how terrible this is. It says Black People Land. I mean, that's pretty terrible. We don't call it that anymore. We're enlightened these days. So then, summer came and I decided that this was kind of cheesy and I wanted to make things a little better, so I went ahead and made this map, which literally has my blood on it. You can see here and here, it actually has my brother and I's blood on it. We took Nerf darts, removed the suction hat part out of it, and then shot ourselves with putting tacks where the suction part of a Nerf dart would be, and then shooting ourselves in the arm and each other, and it was something that we did. But anyway, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to prick my finger like willingly unless it was like automatically like inserted in there, so I basically did that, shot myself in the arm, made blood come up, and then just like, and the blood was like, but anyway, you can see a lot of changes here. So Hanor has now taken shape, but I pretty much took most of it from, some island I found online that somebody else made, and that kind of bothered me, so I've changed it a lot over the years. Now this isn't entirely from that, like I took Northern Ireland and I put it on this top half here, but anyway, I still don't like that I took it from something else, so it pretty much doesn't even look like that anymore. Here you have the scan, which you'll find out all about in Saga 1. By the way, Saga 1 is that storyline. When I was playing Skyrim, I made up Narbad. Saga 1 was that book. I don't know if I said that. Isfjell is like the Arctic. You don't get to see like any of this up here in the Sylvan Mist map, which I'm going to fix. But that's basically like Antarctica. It's like nothing can live in this air. It's too cold. You just can't do it. So I had this map for the longest time. And I mean like a long time, but I decided at some point, I don't remember when, but I decided that I wanted my maps to be bigger. And you can actually kind of see on this map here that there is a southern continent vergern, right? And that's kind of where the events of Saga 2 and 4 take place. But it's changed. Vergern has changed a lot over the years. This is actually not Vergern. I think this is. Originally, it was just going to be kind of like this pirate territory. Right? So, here you have Fostra. There's Vergern. It was pretty much going to be like a jungly area. And then there was going to be these islands. Right? That was originally what that southern continent was going to be. And I, basically, whenever I decided I wanted to change it, I put a lot more distance in between Vergern and Fostra. So, and I made Vergern a lot bigger, as you'll see, and I got rid of all these islands. However, there is still a continent in between Fostra and Vergern that I have not... Kind of like, if you put these, it's kind of like over here, but I don't even know if you can see that, but we'll get to it, don't worry. Alright, so, anyway, I decided that I was just going to change it because, I don't know, I just didn't like it, so I changed it. So this was going to be the southern western hemisphere, like our South America. Then this was going to be the southeast. It was basically really simple. It's a giant typhoon. And that's the gate to the abyss, which is hell. And then basically what is the South Pole. Not too much creativity there, but you notice I like to make my maps realistic. So then I did the Darklands, which was basically where Vandir lives, and I actually got soot from a fireplace and covered it in soot, so it'll still get your hands dirty even today. But this was that map. See, this is stuff that literally nobody but the people that know me physically and have been in my, have known me for a while have seen. So this was what the Darklands were going to look like, and you'll see the similarities here when I show you what this has evolved to. You can see a lot of detail. There's an evil fish people race that you haven't met yet. Silverians, I believe the name is. But you'll get to them in Saga 1. You'll get to meet those evil punks. Alright, so after that, about the time the Sylvan Mist was coming, so around the time that I was graduating college, I decided I would redraw Fostra's map, which is the most current rendition of this. And the big difference here is that the mountain, like the Scotland thing, comes down farther, so that there's only like this little pass here. Right? So it's like almost like a really ridiculously thick river. Whereas before, you know, it was like basically a bunch of islands, and like this was completely separated. I mean, it still is, but by a lot more water. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where Fostra is now. I'm going to have to not change it, but add more detail in, because I'm going to do this thing where I get like a big architect, like what architects use when they do their thing. And it's going to be like huge. It's going to be like as big as all 4 of these maps together. And I'm just going to do Fostra like with really like legible handwriting, because mine's terrible. And then I'm going to scan that in and then create prints of that and such and put that in my books. So that it'll just look much better, because I'll be able to get the details that should be there right. So then after I changed that, I decided to change Verdurn, which I don't know if the glare is going to prevent you from seeing this, but this is what it looks like now. You can see it is a lot bigger. There's a lot going on. You have werewolves, vampires, and basically where Mirkuva comes from down here. You got undead civilization here. This is that original continent that they lived on before Ragnarok, and then they had to go up to Foster because this place was decimated. People still live here, but it's chaos, and it's like reality is not entirely, the realms of physics not entirely stable here. You have the Great Tree where the elves originate from, which they split from Verdurn because it's crazy there. You have the Red Mountains, which is where Redegazar chills. That's where he lives. That's the firstborn son of Vandir, basically Satan. Then you have these lands here, which are basically miscellaneous creatures that have come through these portals in the fields of chaos. There's basically like all these fields to alternate dimensions where basically any crazy thing that comes into my imagination can come out of and settle in these areas. And then you have the Khazar Desert, which is basically the big desert in my series. You got the Fields of Chaos. That little snap there you saw was the video. There's a limit, like 10 minutes videos on my camera. I gone and done talk for more than 10 minutes about this. It just shows how much I like it. I like this more casual setting here. I can really talk to like the really nerdy fans that really want to get into it. Anyway, lightning fields, that's basically where there's a bunch of lightning eternally shooting down. Mud fields, this is where your giants in the Behemoth, or however you pronounce that, forest. Lots of cool stuff down here. Lots of cool things. Okay. I don't know why I became Donald Trump there, but I did. Sorry if that offends you. Okay. Then I decided I was going to change the Darklands. And this was actually like a year ago. So it went from what you saw to this, which honestly I think looks a lot better. And how this is going to kind of fit is, if I take this, sorry Batman, basically it's kind of like that. Right, so I'm kind of showing you guys my entire world here. Then Verdurn is down where my forearm is, and there's another continent like over here, and then there's like the heaven, like Himen, and all that jazz. You can still see that there is a cyclone to the abyss, because, and you'll get a description of the abyss in Saga 1, and it's pretty horrifying. Now here it's kind of cool, because this is Draken Odin, yeah. And that's where like the Nakvorian, like Viking people that are inspired by Vikings come from. There's also dragons here, which is where Vandir and his evil, children, which live in this continent, kind of get their inspiration to become dragons. Up here you have Frost, which is basically a giant, eternally snow-covered forest with frost giants. And you don't want to go there. But Elion may be there at some point. Spoiler! Anyway, it's not really that big of a spoiler. But it is at the same time. I'm working on some pretty cool stuff there. Then, very recently, I decided I was going to change Henor because it was boring me. And it just needed to be more changed from that original. So, originally, Henor was this. Right? I changed this piece of paper because I was using it to make the new map. Basically, it was basically this. But then I decided I was going to add another chunk to it, which you can kind of see outlined here. And we got this beautiful piece of paper. This is Henor. This is where Saga 3 will take place. This is basically the homeland of the orcs And basically, I mean, if you really got into detail on this, you have the Highlands of Atholl, which is basically my ancestor, you know, the Scottish Moray. They come from the Highlands in Scotland near a place, Atholl. So Atholl, because I always want to call it Atholl. Anyway, so I mean, you have these cool little crooked mountains, and then you have the lowlands. So this little jut that I added is basically Scotland, right? And then this little southern part is basically England. I basically flipped it. And then this northern chunk, which is basically where the orcs rule whenever there is actually a king there, is basically like Northumberland and like, you know, you have the northern crags, like all of this is just crags, glacier activity, all that stuff. And you got a lot of cool castle names here. No other part in Foster you're going to have all these castle names. Like we got Greystone, Fogmark, Blackdread, Staghelm North, Staghelm South, Canehelm, Atholl, Rourke. You got things like the Ashwood, the Lavender Wood Forest, you got the Winter Wood, you got the Forest of Raulos, you got Fellmount, Snowbourne Keep, Coast Hollow, Seabourne, Deadmount, Sullenmoor, Fallen Gate, Dreadstorm. You got all of these crazy, awesome names in here. There's even a city named Bruce after Robert the Bruce, the Scottish man. He's Scottish. Anyway, I love Hanor. It's great. It's amazing. But yeah, that's kind of the newest edition. I'm gonna probably redo the Fostrian map in this size just to reflect the new Honorian shape and business. But that's pretty much the maps of Fostra. Now there's a lot there, but I hope you were interested in it. I got some other maps that I've done that I'll show very briefly. And none of them are really necessarily canon anymore. So I did Talor, the Dwarf Lands, the Land of Mystery. And the reason why I say they're not canon is because there's literally no more detail on this than there is on that. Except on like fancy things like calligraphy. That's Zeit's house. This is a blank piece of paper, really. Oh yeah, this is Hanor before I changed it up. I'll say that. And this is Nokvior, where the Viking people live in the Western Kingdom, where Gildor's from. But anyway, so that you can see the difference here. You can see the difference. So you got Hanor, the old one on the right, the new one on the left. So there's a lot of cool things going on. I really enjoy making maps. It really helps me visualize what I'm doing. And anyway, if you like this video, please like it on Patreon. You're the only ones that get to see this video. I hope it was a little bit more connecting, you know. I mean, you guys are seeing stuff that most people never get to see. So next time, on the next bi-weekly video, I hope to show you my notebooks from way back when. Like the notebook that I bought in high school to like start formulating my ideas. I'll share some of this with you. As well as, it's got illustrations that I've done because I'm a terrible artist. As well as my newer one. And I might let you peek in this one, but there's not really anything interesting. Except this plot line for Saga 3. But you can't see it. It's top secret. So anyway, Mira, would you like... Oh, Rollo's in here too. Mira, would you like to send us out? Mira. Look into the camera. Look into your soul. Yeah, she's a little tired. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay with us next time for another video. Adios.